Okay, so moving. It's got to be one of the most stressful things ever.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, up there with like doing your taxes or
Yeah.
trying to put together furniture with those instructions that are just pictures.
Yeah, those are the worst.
But, we're going deep today into the world of moving, specifically in Mississauga.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the time we're done here, you'll feel
A little less stressed.
a little more prepared and a little less stressed about the whole process.
Exactly.
And to help us navigate this whole thing, we've got King's Transfer Van Lines. And get this, they've been around for over 100 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, that alone, like as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we have to learn more about these guys.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple things. We've got their website, which is like, your one-stop shop for learning about their services, a little bit about them.
Mhm.
And then their blog, which has got a lot of kind of general moving tips.
Right.
Now, I've moved enough times to know that, like, I'll take any advice I can get. But a company that's been around for a century, they must be doing something right.
They must have figured something out.
Right.
What I find fascinating about that, 100 years, is what it says about their ability to adapt. Think about how much Mississauga's changed
Oh, yeah.
in that time.
Completely.
It's gone from, these little towns and villages to a major urban center.
Right.
To not just survive that, but, thrive.
Yeah.
That, really says something about how well they know the moving landscape of this city.
And speaking of knowing the city, right on their website, they literally call themselves Mississauga Movers since 1922.
That's a legacy.
Yeah, it really is. But legacy aside, what exactly do they offer? What kind of moves are we talking about here?
So on their website, they highlight a pretty comprehensive range, actually.
Oh, whoa.
Everything from your local move across town to, long-distance hauls across the country, and even international relocations.
Okay.
Plus, they do all the stuff we tend to dread, like
Oh, God.
unpacking, storage, the whole 9 yards.
It's like the full package deal.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so not just throwing your stuff in the back of a truck and driving it across town.
No, not at all.
They're really handling it for you.
Yeah, they seem to.
Yeah. Now, I also noticed that they really emphasize that they have different vehicle sizes, specialized equipment, things like that.
It makes sense.
I guess that's important because, not every move is the same.
Absolutely. And, it shows they're thinking about the individual needs of each client.
Mm-hmm.
Because
what works for, studio apartment isn't going to work for,
a 5-bedroom house.
a 5-bedroom house, right?
Exactly. And they also cater to both short-term and long-term storage needs.
Oh, okay.
Recognizing that, sometimes life throws you a curveball.
Yeah, totally.
And you need somewhere safe to keep your stuff.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets interesting. They offer custom crating.
Custom crating. Okay, what is that?
So imagine you have something super delicate, maybe a one-of-a-kind sculpture,
Yeah.
a really valuable antique,
Right.
or even just something with a really weird shape.
They won't fit in a box.
Exactly. Custom crating's they build a protective fortress around these items
Oh, wow.
to make sure they arise in perfect condition, next-level care and expertise.
Okay.
And, especially for, those really treasured possessions, it can make a world of difference.
Well, and speaking of things that we treasure and dread, I saw they offer as much packing help as you need.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is music to my ears because
likes packing?
nobody likes packing. It's the worst.
The absolute worst.
But I think even beyond the, the logistics of it all, moving is about that sense of trust.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing your stuff is in good hands.
Absolutely.
That peace of mind.
Peace of mind is everything when you're moving.
Yeah. So it seems like King's Transfer really understands that because they hit a few, key points right on their website to build that trust.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, first off, they're upfront about their insurance coverage, which is a must-have.
Absolutely, yeah.
For any moving company you're even considering.
Right.
But they even specifically mention workers' compensation insurance.
Oh, interesting.
Which to me says a lot about how they treat
their employees.
Yeah, their employees.
It's a sign that they value their team, which usually translates to better service overall.
Exactly. It's they're treating people right, whether it's the people moving your stuff or you, as the customer.
Exactly. And you know what else they mention? They highlight their membership with the Canadian Association of Movers.
What does that mean for someone like me who's like, okay, whatever?
Well, it means they're adhering to, like, the industry best practices and standards.
Okay.
So, they're not just some fly-by-night operation.
Right.
And they proudly display their A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau.
Okay, now that one I was actually curious about.
A lot of people don't know what that means.
Yeah, so break it down for us.
Okay. So the Better Business Bureau, they evaluate businesses on how transparent they are, how they handle complaints, their track record with customers.
Okay.
So that A-plus rating means they've consistently demonstrated ethical practices, and they're committed to customer satisfaction.
So for me, as a potential customer, that's like a good thing.
That's a huge green flag. It means you can trust them with your belongings, and you can expect a professional and reliable moving experience.
Okay, that makes sense. Because it's one thing to just say you're reliable, right?
Yeah, anyone can say that.
But to have it, like, verified by someone else is huge.
Absolutely.
But you know what really caught my eye were the testimonials on their website.
Oh, the testimonials.
Yeah. It's one thing to see, like, ratings and certifications.
Yeah.
But when you read about actual people's experiences.
That's more convincing.
Yeah, it's way more convincing. And they've got, like, a really diverse range of testimonials.
What kind of things are people saying?
You've got Soundus praising their best-in-class service.
Wow.
Derek Kelly mentioning how respectful the team was.
Nice.
And then Violet Finkelstein literally called them the king of the movers.
That's great.
It's not just like, generic 5-star reviews. It's like you can tell people are genuinely happy.
That human element really makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
And what's interesting is, it's a variety of people.
Right.
Different needs, different expectations, and they're all happy.
Yeah.
So this really suggests that there's a consistency in King's Transfer's approach and a commitment to providing excellent service no matter what.
Across the board.
Yeah, no matter who you are, what your move entails.
Yeah.
They're aiming to deliver that same level of care.
Okay, so we've established, I think, King's Transfer, reputable company.
Yeah.
They've got the experience, the services.
Lots of them.
The happy customers.
Yes.
But what's really intriguing to me is that they're not just ANY moving company.
Right.
They seem to be experts in Mississauga specifically.
Oh, yeah, that's key.
Yeah, they've got this whole section on their website called Useful Info for Moving to Mississauga. And it's got insights that go, like, way beyond just the moving part.
Like what?
For instance, did you know that Mississauga is home to over 60 Fortune 500 company head offices?
Over 60?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, I was shocked.
That's wild.
I knew Mississauga was a big city, but I had no idea.
Right. It's huge.
Yeah. And this is where I think, like, their expertise in Mississauga really comes into play.
Oh, for sure.
Think about all the business relocations,
Yes.
all the employee transfers,
Absolutely.
all the corporate moves that must be happening with that many major companies.
It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
And they clearly know how to handle it.
And on top of that, they mention all the different neighborhoods within Mississauga.
Right, like
Applewood, Streetsville. Each one's got, like, its own character, its own vibe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for someone new to the city, understanding that can be so valuable.
Yeah.
It's like they're not just moving your stuff, they're helping you understand the city.
Right. And helping you make the right decision about where to live.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, they also mentioned that Mississauga is way more affordable than Toronto.
Oh, for sure. And that's a big draw for a lot of people.
Yeah, no kidding. So it's almost like they're not just moving your stuff.
Right.
They're selling you on the city itself.
They're helping you make that transition, that whole life change.
Yeah, which honestly is a huge part of moving.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not just about, like, your physical location.
It's an emotional thing, too.
It's a whole thing. Okay, so they've definitely got that Mississauga-specific expertise down pat.
Yeah, Pat.
But let's not forget about their blog.
Oh, yeah, the blog's great.
Which seems to be chock full of just, like, helpful tips.
For anyone,
For
really.
anyone who is planning a move.
No matter where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these blog post titles, they, like, really caught my attention.
Like what?
Office space in the post-COVID-19 world. Now, that's something I bet a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah, the pandemic's changed how we think about workspaces.
Completely.
And King's Transfers, like, right there with it.
And then you've got the classic question, how much do movers cost per hour?
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing everyone wants to know.
Right.
It's on everyone's mind.
As soon as you even think about moving, you're like, oh, God.
How much is this going to cost?
How much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of misconceptions around that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
People underestimate, like, packing materials, travel time, all those hidden costs.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of practical tips, they've also got one called Spring Cleaning Tips for Your Move,
Oh, that's a good one.
which is
Kill
genius.
two birds with one stone.
Right. You're decluttering and packing at the same time.
You're brilliant.
It's like, why didn't I think of that?
It's a great example of how King's Transfer goes beyond just the logistics.
Right.
They're actually trying to make the whole process easier for you.
So far, we've learned a lot about King's Transfer.
We have.
We've got their services, their history,
Yeah.
and some really interesting insights into the Mississauga moving scene.
Fascinating, isn't it?
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I gotta ask, with all these Fortune 500 companies and like all these really cool, diverse neighborhoods drawing people in,
Yeah.
how does that impact Mississauga's overall growth? I mean, all these people coming in.
That's an excellent question. And it's something we should definitely explore further.
Yeah,
Think about it. More people moving in means more demand for housing,
right.
which can drive up property values and lead to new development projects.
Yeah, totally.
And those Fortune 500 companies, they don't just bring offices.
No.
They bring jobs, infrastructure, needs, a whole ecosystem that's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It's a fascinating dynamic, and we'll definitely delve into it more
Okay, sounds good.
after a quick break.
All right. It's like this constant like
Cycle of growth.
in change.
Yeah.
And it's not just like physical growth either.
Right.
As all these people are moving to Mississauga, they're bringing, their traditions, their cultures, their ideas.
It's like a melting pot of...
Yeah. It's like a cultural tapestry.
Yeah, that's a much better way of putting it than melting pot.
Constantly being woven.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize, like, moving isn't just about boxes and furniture.
No, not at all.
It's about people and their lives.
Yeah, their stories.
And it seems like King's Transfer really gets that. Like, even their blog post about making moving less traumatic for kids
Oh, right.
speaks to that. They're not just moving belongings, they're helping families.
Transition.
A
Transition.
chapter.
Yeah, to a whole new chapter.
Right.
And that brings us back to, like, why trust is so important. When you're choosing a moving company,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you're not just looking for, like, the cheapest option, right?
Right.
You're looking for someone who, like, understands your needs, who respects your stuff.
Right. Who can handle the emotional side of things as much as the logistics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean for someone listening right now who might be thinking about, moving to or even within Mississauga?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is do your research.
Yeah.
Don't just, like, jump at the first quote you get.
Right.
Look for a company with a good track record,
Mm-hmm.
a range of services that fit what you need,
Yeah.
and a commitment to making their customers happy.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
So many questions.
Yeah. Like get a sense of their experience, their approach, how well they know the city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, at the end of the day, you're trusting these people with your, like, entire life.
Yeah, pretty much. And from what we've seen so far, it seems like King's Transfer checks all those boxes.
We do.
I mean, they've been doing this for over 100 years.
That's got to count for something, right?
Right. They must have a few tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah. That kind of experience speaks volumes.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not just about, being around for a long time. It's about adapting,
Yeah.
building trust with generations of customers
I
and
know.
understanding the city.
Yeah. Because Mississauga is not the same city it was 100 years ago.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah.
So to be successful for that long.
Impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
Like, moving doesn't have to be this, like, dreaded, overwhelming experience with the right information.
And the right partner.
Yeah, it can actually be like a smooth transition.
It can be exciting even.
Yeah, to a new and exciting chapter.
Exactly.
Well said. So I think for anyone listening,
yeah.
if you're feeling overwhelmed by the thought of moving,
Mm-hmm.
just remember, it doesn't have to be stressful.
No.
Do your research, choose a good company,
Yeah.
and, like, embrace the journey.
I love that. Embrace the journey.
Because moving can be the start of something really amazing.
It's like change can be good.
It can be.
It can be a chance for like growth.
New experience.
Yeah, totally. And with the right support, that transition.
It can be pretty smooth.
Yeah, pretty smooth and even enjoyable.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've successfully navigated this deep dive into the world of Mississauga movers.
I think so.
Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just one lingering thought.
Okay, I'm all ears. So, we've talked a lot about people moving into Mississauga,
We have.
but what about You know, the
Yeah.
people moving OUT.
Oh, interesting.
Life happens, right?
Yeah, for sure.
People relocate for jobs, family, all sorts of reasons.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
So does King's Transfer handle those moves too?
They do. Remember, they offer local, long-distance, and international relocations.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're coming or going.
Right.
They've got you covered.
So it's not just Mississauga movers.
Right.
It's like life movers.
Exactly. Helping people through those transitions.
And that brings up a good point. Choosing a moving company. It's not just like a one-time transaction.
No,
It's about building a relationship.
that's a really good point.
If you find a company you can trust,
Mm.
you know, one that gets you and does what they say they're going to do,
Yeah,
you're probably going to use them again.
makes sense.
Whether you're moving across town or, you know, across the country.
Exactly. It's like finding a good mechanic
Oh, yeah.
or a hairdresser you love.
Yes. You find that perfect fit and you're like,
You stick with them.
I'm never letting go.
Exactly.
And that's where, like, King's Transfer's reputation and how long they've been around
Right, over 100 years.
really comes in, right?
Yeah.
They've been building those relationships for a century.
That's impressive.
It really is. This whole deep dive has really changed how I think about moving companies.
Oh, yeah. How so?
It's not just about, like, the heavy lifting. It's about understanding people's lives.
Their needs,
Their dreams.
you know? It's about helping them through these huge transitions
Absolutely.
and making it as easy as possible.
Yeah, taking the stress out of it.
Exactly. Well said. So to sum it all up,
Right?
if you're planning a move
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, really,
Whether it's Mississauga,
yeah,
across Canada, even overseas.
do your
leave it.
research.
Definitely.
Find a company that you trust.
Ask lots of questions.
Yes. Moving can be, a big task.
It can be overwhelming.
But with the right partner, it can also be the start of something amazing.
Well said. I think we've done it.
I think so.
We've unpacked the world of Mississauga movers.
And we learned some pretty valuable stuff along the way.
We did.
So for everyone listening, hopefully this deep dive has given you the confidence to tackle your next move.
And maybe even some excitement for what's to come.
Until next time, happy moving, everyone.